Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. So today we're going to be building an RC airboat. We have our 1/2-inch foam board here, and then this thinner foam board. We got our electronics. This is a remote here, and then we have our receiver, which gets the signal from the remote. We have this small battery here. We also have this ESC, which stands for electric speed controller. So we got our electronics, we got our foam board. So let's get started. So I measured 12 inches across, 7 inches down. I'm going to make 2 of them, and we can stack them on top of each other and glue them together. That way it's thicker. Alright, so I drew out this little square here. It is 5 inches by 4 inches. So we're going to cut that out, and that's going to be our rudder for the back of the airboat. Alright, so I used my razor to cut through only the top layer of paper, and it should just split open like this. You want to make sure that you don't go all the way through, because this is supposed to be able to bend. As you can see, it goes both ways much further now, so it's basically just cleaned out this little trench here. Alright, so the body's glued together now, and then as for the rudder here, I cut out these little strips of foam board, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on in the center, and then glue these little pieces on the side and just stack them up maybe too high, and it's gonna look something like that, and that's gonna help support this from falling over. Alright, so I stacked these pieces on the side, and then now I'm just gonna cut out 2 little supports that are gonna go up at an angle like this. So these are the little supports to help hold up the steering rudder. Alright, so to mount the motor here, I have these little blocks of cut out foam board. This is the 1/2-inch foam board. And I'm just going to stack the pieces up high enough, and then I'll be using some of this thin wood here to make angle supports. So when you're gluing the motor on, you just want to make sure that it's straight and angled right. That way the boat doesn't just constantly go one direction. So if it's straight, it'll just work properly. Alright, so I cut out these 2 pieces of wood here just as extra support for the motor. And now I'm just going to put some extra glue to glue that in. And then we'll be mounting some of the electronics. So all these supports are dried. Now it's time to just cut an angle at the nose here, so if it ever does hit something, that it will just go up and over it. Alright, so now that we got the edge cut, everything's glued in place. Now I'm just going to use some duct tape to help reinforce the body. Alright, so I got the whole bottom covered with duct tape, and now I'm just going to put a couple pieces across the top, and then we'll be ready to move on to electronics. Alright, so I put duct tape all over the bottom, the sides, the top, and then I just put some hot glue around the little edges here to close it all up, and then now we're going to mount some of the electronics. So all these electronical components might seem a bit confusing, but after you learn a little bit about them, they're actually pretty easy. This right here is an ESC, which stands for electric speed controller, and you have these 3 wires that come out. These will go into your motor, so we'll just plug those in, and if the motor goes in the wrong direction, you just get 2 of these and swap them, and that will reverse the direction. And then you have this plug right here, which goes right into your battery, which I'm not going to do that right now. And then you have this little plug that comes out. Now this goes into your receiver. Every channel has its own purpose, so I'm going to put this one into channel 3, which is going to be this right here. So basically how it works is a movement on your remote that will send the signal to this, which is called a receiver. It receives the signal, and then it tells the speed controller what speed to put the motor at. This right here is called a servo. It's basically a little electric motor, and it just turns a little arm right and left, and we're going to use that to steer the rudder. And for that, you just plug it into any channel into your receiver, and depending on which one you plug it into will control a different joystick on your remote. So that's how you connect all the electronics. Now I'm just going to be mounting them onto the body. So I 3D printed this little arm here It has a tiny pinhole to put a piece of metal through, and that's basically going to mount on the rudder, and then the servo is going to have an arm which controls the steering rudder like that. Alright, so I glued on this 3D printed mount. I just put it at the same level of the arm that's going to stick off the servo here, so that way they have a clear line to connect on. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the servo, stick it in place, and then I have this little bag which has different arms that go on the servo. So I got this spool of wire here, and I'm going to cut out a certain length, and that's going to connect the servo arm right here to this 3D printed mount. So I bent this little shape here, and that's going to go inside the servo arm, and then the other end I will just bend up and put inside of the 3D printed mount. Also, I have this little Velcro strap here where I'm going to put the battery, and the servo's hooked up, so everything's ready, so let's see if it works. So I 3D printed this plate here just so it has sort of a bumper, so if it runs into stuff, it has a protection piece here. And also I think it'll slide better on most surfaces than the duct tape will. So we're going to go ahead and glue this in. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, get your friends to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.